For major American Motorsports Championships, two important titles could be decided this weekend, and point races are heating up in a half-dozen other series. We'll bring you up to date on all of that action today, beginning with motorcycle racing. Eddie Lawson, 26-year-old California Yamaha rider, at the threshold of his sport's richest championship, 500cc World Road Race title. Only Randy Mamola of Team Honda can derail Lawson's dream. Mamola kept his own championship hopes alive in Sunday's British Grand Prix. Number 9, Ron Haslam, England's favorite son, got a jackrabbit start on his home track, leaving Lawson and Mamola to play catch-up, and catch-up they did. Within 8 of 28 laps, number 3 Mamola leads. Lawson is third. Mamola didn't even have a bike at the start of the season. He became Honda's only hope for the title when defending world champ Freddie Spencer was injured 3 weeks ago. Number 4 Lawson could have cooled it at Silverstone, protecting his point lead. Instead, he gave Randy a battle royal until Mamola took the lead for good with this late-breaking maneuver 7 laps from the end. The victory keeps Mamola's faint title hopes glimmering, but he has to win the last 2 races, and Lawson must have big trouble. Mamola may be ready to do his part, but Lawson is odds-on to clinch his first world championship. He can do that with a 4th place or better finish tomorrow at the Swedish Grand Prix.
Daytona International Speedway officials this week announced a big change in America's biggest motorcycle road race. The Daytona 200 next March will feature superbikes rather than Formula One machines. The production-based superbikes are the nearest two-wheeled equivalent of the Grand National stock cars, which put Daytona on the racing map. And in American dirt track motorcycle racing, a classic championship battle is clouded by a serious safety problem. Dave followed that story to the suburbs of Chicago last Sunday.
The Camel Pro Series Motorcycle Championship. It's one of the most competitive series in the world. This year it features a great battle between Harley-Davidson and Honda. Number 3 Ricky Graham and number 67 Bub Schobert pilot Honda's space-aged missiles. Harley-Davidson's title hopes ride with Randy Goss, number 1, defending series champion. These guys race at 130 miles an hour, inches apart. The more powerful Hondas of Graham and Schobert jump out front. They've won 4 of 5 mile track races this year. Goss holds a narrow series point lead. Determination and drafting keep him in contention. Randy was looking for his 2nd win of the weekend. In a Friday night race, he and Graham crashed together. Goss got up and passed the field to win. But Sunday, the title contenders swapped the lead in the face of a major safety problem. Excessive tire wear cut the race distance nearly in half. They were running on the cords when Schobert made a heart-stopping pass for the lead. Even on good tires, these guys constantly run on the razor edge. Schobert, Graham, and Goss thunder into the final lap. They came across 3 abreast, wondering if the tires would hold. Graham looking for a draft pass in the final turn.
Randy got into the corner a little bit too hot, almost crashed. So I knew that he wasn't going to be in the draft. So I just tried to hook onto the back of Bubba and try to draft him, and it worked.
Here's how well it worked as Goss struggles 3 lengths back. Graham rides Schobert's draft up the inside, win number 4 of the season. 3 Hondas and 2 Harleys in the top 5, but the post-race topic was tires. What about the tire problem? How was your tire at the end of the race?
It was definitely a tire problem. The things were all the way down to the cords after the races, so we couldn't have went many more laps. And I don't know, they're going to have to do something about it.
Graham moves closer to series leader Goss. 5th-ranked Parker couldn't have gone any more laps. His tire blew just past the finish line. Parker was okay. Here's Graham celebrating the fact that he won and that everybody got out of there alive. Well, that action was spectacular and nobody was hurt, but I found that event to be a frightening spectacle. Racers in tight packs at 130 miles an hour waiting for their worn-out tires to blow is not my idea of sport. It's been months since Goodyear announced it was pulling out of bike racing. That created Sunday's problem. But inaction by American Motorcyclist Association officials during those months turned a problem into a crisis. The best they could come up with was an 11th-hour decision to dramatically shorten the race. Let's hope the AMA has a much more workable solution in mind for the 6 mile track races remaining on the 84 schedule. Elsewhere, a tight championship point battle is raging in IndyCar racing. Jerry Garrett will bring us that story today from the Road America circuit, Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. But first, a footnote to last week's special report on the future of IndyCar racing. You'll recall car owner Pat Patrick's complaint that Indy cars belong on oval tracks and that series' recent wholesale move into road racing strays from the sport's heritage. Well, Sunday, Patrick talked with kart president John Frasco, to whom his complaints were directed. Then he suggested some changes in the Elkhart course.
I'd like to see the track about half as long instead of a 4-mile track. Have it 2 miles. That way you get a better show, I think, for the people, and the cars would be bunched up close, would be more passing.
Well, here's the present Road America layout. The changes suggested by Patrick, the oval track loyalist, would eliminate what you see as the bottom half and, what do you know, an oval. I don't think it's likely we'll see those changes, and here's the reason why. Indy cars on road courses are a big success. Sunday's race at Road America replaced a date at the Wisconsin State Fairgrounds in Milwaukee, capacity 30,000 for the oval race there. The Road America road race crowd, 95,000, largest at the track since the heyday of the Can-Am series back in 1970. And when we come back, Jerry Garrett will tell us about the race that those fans saw.
And I'll be back later with the story of another racing title being decided today. The International Race of Champions Series wraps up at Michigan International Speedway.
He has taken the point lead in the kart PPG IndyCar World Series. Mario scored his 4th win of the year and his 3rd in 4 starts last Sunday at Road America. As Jerry Garrett reports, the secret of Mario's success is his VDS engines.
Everybody thought when Team VDS pulled off the IndyCar circuit after the Indy 500 that they were done with the series for the year. It's not so. They've been building engines for the cars that have won the last 6 races in the series.
VDS powers consistent frontrunner Bobby Rahal, Tom Sneva, the points leader entering this race, and Mario Andretti, this season's hottest driver. Andretti started on the pole with a track record. But his car's not only fast, it's also fuel efficient. In the race, Andretti's strategy was to make only 2 fuel stops to everyone else's 3. Andretti led easily until his first stop, and then Danny Sullivan, with quicker pit work, took over. Sullivan stayed out front until the next stop, when Andretti's crew was quicker. 2 laps later, Sullivan's engine broke, leaving Andretti miles ahead. Sneva's engine also broke, and he was left beside the road snapping photos as Andretti snapped up the series point lead with a big victory. Rahal's runner-up finish gave VDS engines a 1-2 sweep. In victory, Andretti praised his engine builders.
VDS with Franz Wiest and the gang is doing a fantastic job, I tell you. They're the ones that really gave me the last race in Michigan. The engine won that for me, and here I just never misses a beat. I have so much confidence, and I just can never say enough for those people. They're really behind us, and I'd rather be racing with them than against them.
Well, next year, Mario may have to race against Team VDS. Count Rudy van der Straten, the Belgian brewer, for whom that team is initialed, recently ordered 3 new Lola chassis. That's the first step toward a return to full team sponsorship in 1985. Meanwhile, VDS engines have won 7 straight IndyCar poles, including Tom Sneva's Indy 500 record smasher. They've won 7 of the 9 races this year. Mario and Bobby Rahal on the right turned a 1-2 VDS sweep Sunday. Our Wrangler U.S. Air Force Reserve Behind the Scenes Award goes to Franz Wiest, the VDS engine man. He'll get a new outfit from Wrangler, though he's quick to share the credit with all the guys back at the race shop in Midland, Texas. And incidentally, Franz tells us work absolutely stops at VDS on Saturday afternoon, so everybody can watch MotorWeek. Turning to Formula One road racing, Team McLaren's dominance of the '84 season has produced a fascinating title chase. 2 teammates, a study in contrast, are now rivals for the World Championship. Niki Lauda is the old master. The 35-year-old Austrian carries the scars and the knowledge gained en route to 2 world titles. He retired once, but the lure of big dollars and further glory brought him back. 29-year-old Alain Prost, the young lion, has returned to the team that gave him his start in Formula One. Twice, Prost has built big mid-season point leads only to lose the title. He longs to be the first Frenchman crowned world driving champion. Last Sunday, German Grand Prix, the Prost-Lauda battle and the McLaren domination continue. Team Lotus Elio De Angelis led early, but a broken turbo left him limping on fire. He's okay. Defending world champ Nelson Piquet in the Brabham also tried to unseat the McLarens, but his transmission failed. In a now familiar scene, point leader Prost defeats the veteran Lauda, who closed to within 4 seconds of his teammate before settling for the runner-up spot. That's Prost's 4th win of the year. He moves a step closer to his dream of the World Championship. And see how totally McLaren dominates the car builders' standings? That series moves to Lauda's home country for the Austrian Grand Prix a week from tomorrow. There is not a tight point battle this year in the Camel GT Road Racing Series. When we come back, we'll meet the surprise team that threatens to run away with that championship. The Camel GT Road Racing Championship. Jim Roller reports from Sears Point Raceway in California on the Camel GT's surprise team.
At the beginning of the 1984 Camel GT season, the Blue Thunder Racing Team hadn't even been thought of. But now, Randy Lanier and Bill Whittington are on top of the Camel GT series. These two Florida businessmen have finished first or second 9 times this year. Last Sunday, Whittington scored a runaway victory, but a 7th-place finish for Lanier kept him in the championship point lead. A remarkable achievement for a man who didn't even plan on running the full season.
We put the team together to do 5 or 6 races at the beginning of the year, and we kind of progressed a little bit faster than we thought, so we decided to go ahead and do the rest of the season.
Whittington is one key to Lanier's success. Bill serves as co-driver, coach, and mentor. Randy also benefits from an extensive testing schedule designed to increase his experience.
Time in the car is really important, and the more time you get in a car, the more comfortable you feel, and if you feel comfortable, you can just stretch yourself that just a little bit more. And in order to really go fast, you gotta, give it a 10 and 100% of your ability, and I think time does it.
Whittington says he's no threat to Lanier's title hopes, that he was hired to help Randy win, and he's looking to Lanier's future, perhaps Indy cars.
Probably get him in a champ car sometime this year for a test and see if he likes it. You know, he might not like it at all, but I kind of think he might have a tendency to enjoy that.
For now, Randy Lanier seems to enjoy what he's doing, running away from the preseason favorites for the Camel GT Championship. Reporting from Sears Point, this is Jim Roller.
In a preliminary to Sunday's Camel GT at Sears Point, the little guys had a chance to shine. John Bauer's GTO class Thunderbird met a strong field of smaller engine GTU cars.
We got some pretty aggressive GTU drivers, as you can see. It's a pretty good field, and it's going to be real interesting.
It was interesting, all right. The pole-sitting Thunderbird led all the way. John Bauer scores his 2nd straight GTO class win. But Aussie's army of GTU cars were hot on the Bird's bumper. They took 4 of the top 5 spots against their bigger-engined opponents.
A few years ago, World Championship endurance road races at Watkins Glen, New York, Daytona, and Canada's Mosport circuit were major events on the North American racing calendar. But that series is in serious decline. Last Sunday, its only 84 appearance on this continent was nothing to brag about. Only 12 real entries showed up, though the field was inflated to 16 by a Camel GTO car, a Kelly American sedan, an Audi coupe, and a TV camera car that stopped to change film every half hour. Here's the Porsche factory team. Jackie Ickx and Jochen Mass dominated the event. Teammates Derek Bell and Stefan Beloff had a pit fire that cost them a lot of time. They settled for 4th. Ickx and Mass won big, increasing their series lead. Bad news for Bell. He skipped Sunday's Camel GT race only to have trouble here, and he may have lost his title shot in both of those series.
Still ahead, the car racing debut of 3-time world motorcycle champ Kenny Roberts and the final round of the International Race of Champions.
We'll also have a Trans Am Series update, a soggy sprint car race, and Thunderboat racing when MotorWeek continues. Seattle is a traditional hotbed of unlimited hydroplane racing. Last Sunday, the Thunderboats once again raised their rooster tails over the waters of Lake Washington. As these 130-mile-per-hour boats battled to turn 1, Chip Hanauer and Miss Atlas Van Lines took the lead from Jim Kropfeld and Miss Budweiser. Hanauer, the defending Thunderboat national champion, but he lost a propeller and coasted to a stop while Kropfeld blasted into the lead. Miss Tosti Asti inherited 2nd place and provided 130-mile-an-hour onboard camera pictures, but Steve Reynolds was no match for Kropfeld, who streaked to his 3rd win of the year. He leads the chase for the Thunderboat Championship. Of the 50 races campaigned each year by the World of Outlaw sprint car drivers, none is more important than the Knoxville, Iowa Nationals. In tonight's finals there, the fastest drivers in a huge 120-car field run for the big bucks. Our Jerry Garrett is there. He'll report next Saturday. Last weekend, rain drenched the final warm-up for the Nationals at Williams Grove, Pennsylvania. Series leader Steve Kinzer was ankle-deep in mud as he surveyed the racetrack. Well, that muck was eventually ironed out, sort of, and Sammy Swindell took the early lead from Kinzer. But watch the right-hand side of your screen as Dave Blaney gets into the sticky stuff, loses control, bounces off the fence, and then takes a tough-looking tumble. The good news is Blaney is okay. After a caution period to clear the racetrack, the restart saw the old rivals, Swindell and Kinzer, get right back at it. Sammy finds the high line to his liking. Steve is more comfortable down low. And they battled like that until Swindell's car got so packed with mud that the rear suspension broke. He dropped out. It's another victory for Kinzer, who has won over $250,000 in sprint car prize money this year. Well, a few months ago here on MotorWeek, Sammy Swindell told us of his plans to move into stock car racing. This week, the rumor mill cranked out an interesting scenario. Raymond Beadle owns Swindell's old Milwaukee sprint car and a similarly sponsored Grand National stocker, presently driven by Tim Richmond. Well, Richmond isn't happy in that situation, and observers of the IndyCar scene where Tim got his start say he may be a candidate to return to that series next year with the VDS team that we talked about earlier. If that happens, the door swings wide open for Sammy Swindell to buckle himself into number 27 Grand National car and take a crack at Winston Cup racing next season. Now an interesting story from the Trans Am Road Racing Series, dominated last year by the Diatley Team Camaros. This year that team campaigns Corvettes. Defending series champ David Hobbs says his is the worst handling race car he's ever had. Perhaps so, but last Sunday at Road America, a surprise driver took Hobbs' Vet to victory lane. The story begins with confident series rookie Bob Lobenberg. He won the pole in a Pontiac.
Providing we have no mechanical problems or anything of that sort of nature or crash or anything like that, I think we have a real good chance of winning.
For 24 of 25 laps, Lobenberg's chances seem very good indeed. He led big while the Mercury Caprice, which succeeded Diatley Chevys as top guns in this series, had trouble. But Lobenberg's high hopes were dashed. Last lap, leading by miles, his fuel pressure drops to 0. He coasts to a stop. The apparent easy winner climbs out during a momentary scramble to determine who would inherit the victory. The honor fell to a shocked French-Canadian, Richard Spinard, subbing for David Hobbs in the Diatley Corvette.
I couldn't believe it. I knew I was first at the last corner. But I tell you, it was a big surprise. I've been waiting for that for a long time.
Richard Spinard, a driving school instructor who has dabbled in Trans Am road racing and picked up an occasional ride, subbing for Camel GT Series regulars. He's also been bugging Neil Diatley for weeks to let him drive a Budweiser Corvette. Series champ Hobbs skipped Road America to run that endurance race in Canada. Spinard got his chance and made it pay. For giving that team only its second win of the year, Richard Spinard is our champion spark plug racer of the week. He's in the running for a Honda 500 Interceptor motorcycle that goes to our racer of the year.
Before we leave the Trans Am, let's have a look at the series standings. Despite Spinard's Corvette win, Ford products dominate the chase for the championship. Both Gloy and Pickett drive Mercury Caprice. This weekend, Ford's factory road racing efforts will feature a new face. Kenny Roberts, twice American and three-time world motorcycle champion, now retired from two-wheel competition, makes his four-wheel debut at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. He'll co-drive a Mustang in a 24-hour showroom stock race. Based on his testing experiences, King Kenny doesn't figure racing a car will be as thrilling as racing bikes.
Every time you have some little mishap in a motorcycle, your heart starts beating. You know, that's one thing about a motorcycle is you make a mistake, you fall down. Every time you fall down, it hurts, no matter how slow or how fast it is. And in the car, I spun out a couple times, and, you know, you don't even get excited.
King Kenny and his co-drivers qualified 8th overall and 5th in class for the 24-hour grind. Cal Yarborough is the king of the 1984 International Race of Champions Series. Earlier today at the Michigan International Speedway, Yarborough in the blue car was edged at the finish by Neil Bonnet, but his second place was enough to secure the title and the $150,000 bonus that goes along with it. The NASCAR Grand National stock car regulars dominated the series and took home the first 4 spots in the final IROC standings. Ford driver Bill Elliott dominated qualifying for tomorrow's 400-mile Winston Cup event at that same Michigan track. Elliott set a new stock car qualifying record at MIS, breaking his own mark set in the July Michigan 500.
Finally, battles for major racing championships highlight this week's Mr. Gasket racing calendar. After a week off to reload their guns, all the contenders for Winston Cup Stock Car Racing's Grand National title resume their shootout at Michigan International Speedway. Eddie Lawson will try again to clinch the World Motorcycle Road Racing title tomorrow at the Swedish Grand Prix. Fourth place would give Eddie the richest crown on two wheels. And in California, the stars of off-road racing, from buggies to trucks, tackle a little different challenge. They'll run the HDRA short course at San Bernardino, California.
That's it for this week. I'm Ellen Casey. Thank you for joining us.
I'm Dave Despain. We'll see you next Saturday at this same time on MotorWeek Illustrated.